Hi guys, Togo here with a new video, and this video we're going to talk about Pandaria Classic. And there was a lot of commotion, a lot of talks about dampening and which dampening they should run for the Classic Season 1. Now they might change it in Season 2 as well, but for Season 1 they were testing a lot of things on the beta. So they were testing with 0%, they were testing with 30% from the get-go, so the gate opening 30%. They were testing also dampening like at 0% at the first minute, and then around the third minute you have a starting ramping, for example. You had a lot of testing in the beta, and now they have decided that they couldn't really decide. So we've made an update to arenas on the Pandaria Classic beta for some experimentation on dampening, and we're looking forward to you trying it out and hearing your feedback. So if you want to try it out, you can do it in the beta right now. The longest a match can go is now 20 minutes instead of 15 minutes. Now this is the longest. It most likely will not run to 20 minutes, but it is possible. Dampening starts at 5 minutes in all brackets. Every arena, and dampening, for the people that do not know, if you're from Classic, maybe you do not know what dampening is. Dampening is a modifier that limits the amount of healing throughput you have. And it starts at 0%, and at 5 minutes, it starts to ramp up. So it will be 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, less healing that you can actually do towards the players and towards yourself. So it means that at one point you will have, if the match is super long, 99% amount of dampening. So literally your healing doesn't do anything. Normally it should not go to 99% because you still have some burst and you can literally burst someone down if there is no healing. So with the CC that there is in Pandaria, with the damage that there is in Pandaria, I reckon it will now not go to 20 minutes, except maybe if like stealthies are super good and they can avoid the eyes and whatnot, and they just want to stealth around. That could happen, but it generally speaking is not going to happen because it's very easy to find someone with the eyes, but whatever. Every arena starting area now has a bloodbath orb, so it's an orb, very visible, and it requires at least 2 players on a team to channel it to activate. And every team has that. Activating the bloodbath orb costs your vote for earlier dampening in the match. If no teams activates their bloodbath orb, when the gates open, an announcement will describe the match as being slower, and dampening will start at 5 minutes and at 0%. If one team activates their bloodbath orb and the other doesn't, because that's possible, when the gates open, announcement will describe the match as having a warm-up period, and dampening will start at 3 minutes and at 0%. If both teams activate their bloodbath orb, it will start right away. So it means that when the gates open, it is at 0% and it can wrap up to 1, 2, 3% the more time it goes. So it doesn't wait out to 3 minutes to actually ramp up. Bloodbath orbs requires 2 seconds of channeling from at least 2 players on a team to activate. The range to channel the orb is small on purpose to prevent misclicks, so you cannot like channel from 10 yards, you need to be close to it. This will allow players to always vote for the type of game they want to play against their enemies, while knowing the specs of their opponents, but not knowing how the other team is going to vote. So a lot of information actually. In Cataclysm, you cannot see who you are against when you are entering an arena match. You only know it once the gates are open. So technically, you cannot really know if it's going to be versus a double DPS. You don't know if it's like a 3v3 team that has no healer. You do not know that. You only knew your team, and that's it. In Pandaria, that changes. You will see the specs versus who you're facing. So you will see, okay, this is a double DPS. Or okay, this is a healer with a DPS in 2s and 3s. You can see if it's a triple DPS or a double DPS with a healer, and which specs they are. So if they're playing like a dampening comp, or if they're playing like a very bursty comp, or if they're playing like a very setup comp. You have that, right? That's Pandaria. As well, you know your strength as a double DPS, for example. Personally, if I'm a double DPS and I see a healer versus me, obviously I would like to have dampening starting at 0%. Because then you have a chance to burst down and survive. You could also say, maybe I don't want to have dampening because then I can also self-sustain myself. Because Pandaria has a lot of self-sustaining, you can actually survive a lot of the damage as a DPS, and you can actually reset very efficiently, depending on the comp, depending on the spec you're playing. So there is a lot of like thinking through. Sometimes you're going to say to your teammate, oh, maybe bloodbath is not a good idea because we are facing na, and we need to survive that amount of time, or we need to burst them down at at 30 seconds. So dampening is not relevant anyways. So you have that as well in mind. So there is a lot of like tactics that you can have while playing Mists of Pandaria Classic arenas, and I find it very dynamic. If I'm playing double DPS, let's say I'm playing Ret Enhancement Shaman, I for sure don't want dampening to be a factor because I want to be able to self-sustain myself. Especially if I'm playing versus a double DPS that has no self-heal. So I'm thinking about like, or like little to no self-heals, because everyone has self-heals in Mists of Pandaria. But let's say you're playing versus Rogue Hunter. Obviously, you do not want to have dampening, because if you have dampening, you are kind of nerfing yourself. So you will not click on the orb. They will most likely click on the orb to have they have dampening faster. The match usually will not last 3 minutes anyways if it's a double DPS versus double DPS, but you see that there is a dynamic. Or if you're playing DPS with a healer, let's say you're playing Resto Shaman with a warrior, or Resto Druid with a warrior, or mistweaver with a warrior, those are the comps that you can play as a warrior, and you're facing, let's say, a rogue disc priest. You know that you're going to win with dampening if you are playing Resto Druid warrior or Resto Shaman warrior, because basically you are not trying to set up the kill potential. You're trying to diminish the mana from the priest and try to win with pure throughput, while the rogue, he has to win with a setup. So obviously it doesn't matter how much dampening there is if the healer is CC'd through the whole rotation, healing or not, he's not going to be able to heal anyways. So you have a lot of like things that you have to think through, and I think it's going to be very fun, and I am for it. I don't want to have matches that never ends, but I also don't want to have matches where literally it ends in 5 seconds. So you have your own choice. Obviously, it's not going to happen that it's going to end in 5 seconds if you activate dampening, because dampening is starting at 0%, so it's not going to go to 30% in like 30 seconds. That's not going to happen. But at least you have matches that are going to be controlled, especially DPS healer versus DPS healer. Those matches can last a very long time, especially if they are like mirrors or like they're the same type of comp, and you know that the mana is just not really an issue on Mists of Pandaria. Like mana is really irrelevant in season 1. From all the beta testing I've done, I actually never really saw someone going In arenas, in PGs that can happen, but in arenas it usually doesn't happen. And matches can be long when dampening is not hitting. So I'm very happy with that change. And that, I want to circle back to retail because I'm posting it on the primary channel. It's again a very hard contrast between what is actually being done on Mists of Pandaria Classic and what is being done or said on retail. Right now, retail communication is at its lowest. For season 3, we get a FFA zone on a new map, like zone, I would say, where they promote it as it's something to be excited about, when every single map, every single zone has a zone within that zone that has an FFA factor. For example, the one from Hammerfall, the one from Dornogal, you have like the Isle of Dorn, excuse me. You have a lot of like FFA zones which they are with a world quest. You will not go there to do FFA if there is no world quest, or if you don't have the weekly from that zone. For example, if it's like Hammerfall, the weekly, you're not going to go to Isle of Dorn FFA zone to actually do the PvP. That's not going to happen. You're going to Hammerfall. So I find it very hilarious how out of touch the retail devs are, and I am very annoyed about it. And I know some people are saying that who cares, let retail players enjoy their game, and that's all good. But if you're a PvP player, you cannot tell me you're not frustrated with the amount of communication the classic game has compared to the retail game. I am a sucker for both. So if retail does very well, I'm not going to shoot it down. I'm actually going to jump on the bandwagon and enjoy my time. But the issue is retail is not doing well. So I cannot go to retail with a smile while I know there's other versions of the game that are actually more appealing to me, communication wise, care for the devs, gameplay wise as well, because I think Mists of Pandaria is phenomenal if you're thinking about class designs, and especially if you're thinking about PvP. They are not turning classes into mythic plus beasts or raid beasts. They turn a class into their own identity, and then from that point, they do some balancing. And the balancing is in stone pretty much for PvP. For PvE, they try to balance it in Mist of Pandaria. They're trying to do so with the last few patch notes on the beta. They really try to make everyone have a shot at raiding or at challenge dungeons or at celestial dungeons, which are the replacements of LFR. In PvP, you don't have that, and that's fine. I think the PvP scene is pretty not balanced, because it's never going to be balanced, but like you can make every spec work depending on the comp. You have comps that are better than others, but I think with the dampening changes, you can actually win as a TSG versus like a affliction, warlock, elemental, shaman, druid, like a LSD for example, which is very prominent on the beta. Well, since the dampening changes, you can actually do something. You can play around the dampening of it. They also do play around dampening, but if you want to win with your burst and you don't want them to sustain all the time, you can actually play at your strength. And I find it better and fun and exciting to see the communication from the devs towards PvP. My voice is broken, I'm very sorry. I'm very happy about the care that they have about PvP, and that's, some people don't like Zyrene, which is fine. Zyrene is a dev that I think was a caster, if I'm not mistaken, from League of Legends, came to World of Warcraft team, and he's very vocal about like the classic like dev time. So he has some time on SOD, he has some time on the Cataclysm and the Mists of Pandaria servers. You can actually see that they really care about PvP. And obviously, if you come from League of Legends, you do care for PvP, because else you would not come from League of Legends, right? I don't have that for retail. I can't tell you if there is actually a PvP dev or not. And if there is a PvP dev, then he must be very blind. You cannot like be a PvP dev and see the soul shuffle meta, the soul shuffle Q times, the soul shuffle problems with healing MMR, the solo queue blitz RBG mode, which has a lot of like win traders at night, and that just happens, and everyone can see that, and that's okay. Nothing happens towards that. So and also the queue times and how it's handled. I feel like they're just like, let's bank on midnight to change anything. And if they just change at midnight, that would be very, very bad in my opinion, because it means, again, they try to use PvP as a stepping stone, selling point for their new expansion, and that sucks. The same for Dragonflight. They did the same for Dragonflight with Solo Shuffle. When they tested Solo Shuffle Brawl in Shadowlands, they could have implemented Solo Shuffle in Season 4. As a rated environment to actually test it around and make it better for Dragonflight. No, they didn't do that, and that's why we got Dragonflight with the mistakes that they did for Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, and where we have the same mistakes in the War Within. So they are not learning from their mistakes again. So you can tell everything about Mists of Pandaria. You can say that it's going to live 2 weeks and then stops. I beg to differ. Like, I think if you have played Cataclysm and you queue up for ABG, the queue times are very low, because again, they learn from their mistakes. You can actually queue up versus Alliance. So it means that if you're Alliance, you can queue up versus Alliance. You don't need to go mercenary mode. Fuck that, man. If they see the queue times to be long or they're like short, it's because they put everyone into the same pool. You don't care about Alliance and Horde. Nobody cares about it in the War Within either, because the story just doesn't go there anymore. So just put the mercenary mode away, let everyone go Alliance versus Horde, Alliance versus Alliance, and mix them together. So that's one point. The other point is the LFG tab on retail is dead because you have Soul Shuffle, and that cannibalizes about the 2v2 and the 3v3 scene, which is fine. But also 2v2 has no rewards, so there is no one like really pushing to make it very popular. They prefer the 2v2 to die to just balance 3v3. Is it fine? Is it not? I don't know. I prefer 2v2. 2v2 is my favorite bracket. If there could be a 2v2 glad on retail, I would just play 2v2 and stop 3v3, except if my third friend comes, like my second friend comes online, we do 3v3. But in general, if I have like one friend, I'm not going to find another like random to play 3v3. I enjoy 2v2. And I would be very, very surprised if they actually do something about it in retail for Season 3. I don't think they're going to do that, maybe in Midnight. But in Mr. Pandaria, 2v2, you can actually get glad. You have an RBG scene, which is very alive as well on Mr. Pandaria, because it is the most efficient way to get conquest and honor at the same time, because you get the both at the same time. While if you're doing arenas, you do not get honor in Mr. Pandaria or in Cataclysm. I think in Mr. Pandaria they might maybe change it, but right now it's not the case. I really enjoy how the gameplay feels as well. Like, it's less AoE driven. You're not getting like literally your whole team dying at the same time, except if you're facing a spec that is making sense about that. So I'm thinking about Affliction Warlock. I'm thinking about like Unholy DK. I'm thinking about like, I don't know, like the rotting comps. Even Balance Rate is not a rotting comp in Cataclysm. You spam Moonfire on someone. You're not spamming Moonfire on everyone. So I don't know. I want them to change retail into more of Miss Pandaria, and that's more the gameplay I am attracted to. I would also say TBC is also very fun, but I guess that's really a 180, so it's really changing from retail. It's not going to happen, but it would be nice to have like more of a focused gameplay, which is not, again, designs that are purely about AoE, trying to make AoE work. If your single target is too strong, they have to nerf it, because then you have AoE and single target to be too strong. Like, it cannot be together. So it has to be balanced, and that's okay. But I think Mythic Plus kind of distorts everything. And I'm thinking about a lot of classes that have that problem. For example, a Frost Decay, like they get literally reworked because of that. You have Unholy DK, which again gets reworked as well multiple times because of that. Shadow Priest as well with their AoE cap and whatnot. You have a lot of like the classes on retail, they don't make sense. Well, I would say that in Miss Pandaria, even some specs are not like fantastic, they're okay. They make sense because it is a evolution that is like logical to me. But anyways, that was literally a video about like the changes for arenas, why I'm excited about the Miss Pandaria, why I'm very frustrated about retail. Every single video kind of resembles each other. The truth is, retail is just not doing enough, and I cannot understand how people can defend retail when the communication is at its lowest. Like, there is nothing going on PvP wise. There is like no clear-cut dev that is shining through. It seems like it's a multi-team thing. Well, what I mean with multi-team is like, I am a gameplay dev, but I happen to do some PvP. I am a zone creator, designer, but I happen to do some arena maps. Like, it's not designed well to say that a PvP dev has made the COC map, arena map, and the last PG map. I find those two maps be problematic for PvP. I think if you are a PvP dev, you know what I'm talking about. Like, all those line of sights, all those heights and lower axes, that's not something that PvP loves. Like, we removed Blade's Edge Arena in retail for a reason, because people didn't like the map. Even Miss Pandaria, that map kind of sucks. It got removed for a reason. And for some reason, people like defend the latest designs. And I find it that there is just no PvP devs anymore, or no devs that are actually caring about PvP enough to overtake PvE. Sometimes if you're a PvP dev, you have to say, look, PvE, this is like this, but like, if you implement it in PvP, it's not going to work. So you have to change something. So yeah, I think since Legion, it's going lower and lower. And that's fine, I guess. That's the gameplay for retail. Maybe it's not made for me anymore. Maybe I'm just I'm classic Andy, you know. I feel like I love both games, but I am also not like in a stasis where I have to play retail anymore. I had that before, now I don't have that anymore, so I feel like I can detach me like a lot faster from that gameplay. Um, I find I have more fun on the classic, like even anniversary, I have more fun than on retail. I just don't play it right now because I have less time. I play Mists of Pandaria and League of Legends now, a bit of Warzone here and there. So yeah, I'll do a comeback on anniversary most likely when TBC is coming out for arenas. But I found that the gameplay and the design is more in line in what I actually enjoy in an MMORPG. And right now, the MMORPG aspect from retail is just completely gone. And I feel like the arena gameplay is not fun enough, not designed well enough for me to stay just for that. So that's my opinion. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.